You know what's strange? The people who see the most often say the least, not because they have nothing to say, because they've learned that most people aren't looking at the same thing they are. And if you've ever felt like you're watching a completely different world than everyone around you, this video might explain why. Picture this: you're sitting at dinner, someone tells a joke, everyone laughs, the conversation moves on, but your attention gets stuck on something else. The way one person forced their smile, the half-second pause before they laughed, the glance they gave across the table. Something feels off. You can't explain it, you just know. Hours later, everyone has forgotten the moment, but you're still thinking about it, still replaying it, still trying to understand what happened. And that's when the question appears: why do I notice things nobody else seems to see? Why does my mind keep finding patterns other people miss? And why does it sometimes feel so lonely? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't actually observing reality. They're observing a simplified version of it. Think about your drive to work, or your walk through a grocery store. How much do you actually remember? Probably not much. Your brain deletes most of it. The faces, the sounds, the details, the tiny changes. Not because you're careless, because your brain is trying to protect you. If you consciously processed everything around you, you'd be overwhelmed within minutes. So your mind creates shortcuts. And most people live inside those shortcuts, but some people don't. Some people keep noticing. The expression that doesn't match the words, the confidence that feels rehearsed, the relationship that looks perfect online but feels broken in real life, the pattern beneath the pattern. And that's where things start to get interesting, because people often call this intelligence. But it isn't, at least not entirely. It's attention. And attention is far more powerful than most people realize. Imagine two people standing in Times Square. One sees a crowd, the other sees exhaustion, anxiety, loneliness, ambition, insecurity. Thousands of silent stories moving past each other. Same street, same reality, completely different experience. Now here's where things become complicated, because noticing more doesn't automatically make life better. In many cases, it makes life harder, a lot harder. When you're highly observant, you start seeing contradictions everywhere. People say honesty matters, then reward dishonesty. People say they want feedback, then become defensive when they receive it. People say they value authenticity, then spend years pretending to be someone else. The more you notice, the harder it becomes to ignore. And that's why many perceptive people feel disconnected. Not because they're smarter, not because they're superior, because they're constantly aware of things that others never acknowledge. It's like watching a movie where you can see the strings holding up the props. Eventually, you stop seeing the illusion. And once that happens, you can't unsee it. But wait, there's something even stranger. The people who see what others don't are often the ones who doubt themselves the most. You would think awareness creates confidence. Usually it does the opposite. Why? Because the more you understand reality, the more uncertainty you discover. Most people look at a situation and see one explanation. Highly observant people see 10. Maybe she's upset. Maybe she's tired. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe it has nothing to do with me. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm missing something. The mind starts exploring possibilities, and sometimes it never stops. That's why awareness and overthinking often look like twins. From the outside, they seem identical, but they're not. Awareness gathers information. Overthinking creates stories. Awareness notices. Overthinking assumes. And confusing the two can change your entire life. Think about how many times you've sensed something before anyone else. A friendship slowly fading. A company quietly falling apart. A relationship losing its foundation. At first, nobody believes it. Months later, it becomes obvious. Suddenly, everyone sees it. But by then, you've been living with that reality for a long time. And that's one of the hidden burdens of perception. You often arrive emotionally before everyone else. You start grieving before the loss, preparing before the crisis, adjusting before the change, while everyone else is still comfortable. It's a strange place to live. But here's the twist nobody talks about. Sometimes you're wrong. Completely wrong. Sometimes the pattern isn't a pattern. Sometimes intuition is anxiety wearing a convincing disguise. Sometimes the story your mind creates has nothing to do with reality. And this is where many perceptive people fall into a trap. They begin trusting every instinct, every suspicion, every feeling. But true perception isn't seeing more. It's questioning what you see. The wisest observers are not the people who constantly say, "I knew it." They're the people who constantly ask, "What if I'm missing something?" Because reality is bigger than your perspective, bigger than mine, bigger than anyone's. The moment you forget that, perception becomes arrogance, and arrogance blinds faster than ignorance ever could. So what makes someone able to see what others don't? It's not magic. It's not a superpower. It's not some hidden gift from the universe. It's curiosity, the willingness to look twice when everyone else looks once, the courage to question obvious answers, the patience to sit with uncertainty, and most importantly, the ability to observe yourself, because the greatest blind spots are rarely out there. They're in here, inside your assumptions, your fears, your beliefs, your ego. Most people spend their lives trying to understand the world. Very few spend time understanding the lens through which they see it, and that changes everything. Because the moment you start observing your own mind, you begin noticing things that were invisible your entire life, not just in other people, in yourself. The hidden motives behind your decisions, the fears behind your goals, the stories you've been telling yourself for years, and suddenly, the world starts making more sense. Not because you've discovered some secret truth, but because you've become aware of how much you still don't know. Maybe that's the real psychology of people who see what others don't. They aren't gifted with better eyes. They've trained themselves to look deeper and deeper and deeper still. But the deeper you look into reality, the more reality looks back at you. And that's the part most people aren't prepared for.